Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our July partner webinar with next partner, Liz Whitehead from 12.5. We are really honored and excited to have Liz here today. My name is Lisa Friedlander. I'm the CRO over here at Next, powered by Schulman Rogers. Next is an innovative and award-winning model for the delivery of legal services to startup and emerging growth companies. And we have a huge partner, vast and huge partner network of like-minded service providers that we rely on routinely and who come with us and join us on a monthly basis to provide really interesting and critical information for startups on a variety of topics. And today is no exception. Today, we are going to be talking about how diverse business certifications can increase sales. As I mentioned, we have the pleasure of having Liz Whitehead, who is the award-winning CEO of 12.5, who will give you the why behind diverse business certifications, help you identify if it's right for you and which ones, and get you on the right track. Liz is the CEO of Diversity Masterminds and 12.5. She is a business development consultant that guides business owners so they can leverage supplier diversity networks, have more productive conversations, and win new business. She offers options for busy business owners to strategically leverage these networks: disability, NGLCC, WB, ENC, NMSDC, and now B Corp certifications. The opportunities are limitless, but your time is not. That is very, very true. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to Liz. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. I am going to share some slides, but as Lisa mentioned, please feel free to jump in, ask questions. I want this discussion to go in a way that is helpful for you. So I'm starting with this picture. So this is a picture of Jessica Broom and John Reed. They are both clients of mine, and this is them at the WeBank National Conference. So WeBank, we'll get into what WeBank is. It's the Women's Business Enterprise National Council. And so at this conference, both of them called me before they decided to go. Both of them had been in a cohort together, which is how they know each other. They are both in the marketing space. So Jessica does marketing and analytics. John does branding with an eye toward the psychological needs of your customers. So they both have really interesting businesses. They've been in a cohort together, and they both called me and were like, should I go to this conference? And so I told them the pros and cons of this conference. They had already, because they'd been through a cohort together with me and my business partner, Heather, they had a plan. They had people they were reaching out to. John is not certified as a women-owned business. He is certified as a minority-owned business, but a couple of his clients and potential clients asked him if he was going to be there. Like, can you please come to this event? And so he called us to be like, is it okay if I go? And I told him, it's not only okay if you go, your clients asked you to be there, your potential clients want you there. And you can always go as an ally, which brings up one key point I want to get across, which is that if you're women-owned certified, if you're certified as an LGBT business or a person with a disability who owns a business, that these are all groups that are focused on you, on a particular group, on that underserved community. The people on the other side of the table, so your Coca-Colas here, you can see your JLLs, your Sodexos, your other companies who are looking to buy your goods and services. It's the same people on the other side of the table, whether you're a woman or LGBT, they're called supplier diversity people. And they cover all of these events, which we'll get into in a little bit. But that's why John was welcome at this conference. And so they, I happened to run into them when they were talking together, and I took this picture. And Jessica got in touch with me afterwards. She's like, it was not only like the best WeBank conference I'd ever been to, but it was the best conference I have ever been to, full stop. I knew what I was doing. I knew who my targets were. I also knew who my targets weren't, so I didn't have to waste time. And she's like, and I had extra time to spend with people like John and other potential partners. So I tell you that because they are real people who got certified, like you, or like some of you are planning to, and they've gotten real benefits out of the certification. but probably not unlike you, it wasn't necessarily easy or intuitive for them to know how to do that. So that's the second thing I want to get across with this picture, which is that if you are feeling like you're spinning your wheels, either with the application or once you get certified, then you are not alone. Most people come to us because they're like, I got certified. One of my clients asked me to do it a couple of years ago. And so I did it, but I haven't really been proactive about getting other business. Or I got certified because I thought there would be opportunities for me with new companies, but I haven't been able to get past the like, hi, how are you with the supplier diversity folks. So that there is that potential for you. And that's what that's what I do every day. And I'm going to touch on that a bit today. So we're going to get into the who, what, how, and when of becoming a certified diverse business. That last one is for the people who maybe are in the process who haven't gotten certified yet. And Lisa gave you my background, so I'm not going to go too much into that. But just so you know, I've been in this space for about 20 years, and I've seen business owners really take advantage of it. You know, business owners who knew from the jump, this is what I need to do. And then I've worked with other business owners that are certified for 5, 10, 15 years who are like, okay, I'm finally going to figure this out. So wherever you are in that journey, you know, there are opportunities for you and you haven't missed anything. But I also know that this is what certification can make people feel like. I have this, when you're Samantha, when you're talking about going through the process and that the process is arduous, it certainly can be. So I will talk about some resources for you to get through the process, because it's really only the first step, right? Like a certification is not, okay, you know, some people come to me, it's less and less now, more so 20 years ago, but they're like, okay, so I'm going to get certified and then I'm going to be put on this list. Those things are true. And then these companies are going to come to me when they have a need for my services. That third one is not true. You will be put on a list. You will be put on a directory. The corporations that you want to do business with are looking at that directory. But in order to stand out, in order to be found, and in order to make it through the somewhat what can be Byzantine procurement processes with these large companies, you have to have you have to sustain your energy, systems in place so that you can stay in touch with these people, and you just have to keep going with it. So there are a few things that you will get with your certification right away, and some things that are more medium or long-term goals. And that's what I'm going to focus on today. So we're going to focus on who is eligible. Again, these are for the people that may be watching the recording who are wondering, am I eligible for these certifications and what ones are available? We'll talk about why companies talk about certification. And I think that's good context for you to have as you go into navigating the certification and then navigating the supplier diversity networks. A little bit on how to identify your target market, and then, okay, when do you need help? Like if I need help, if I need help getting to the next step, how do I do that? I hope that is a sigh of relief because you're getting the information you need. So who is eligible? So if you are 51%, if your company is 51% or more owned, operated, managed, and controlled by a member of what I call the new majority. So that is women, people from the LGBTQ community, people with disabilities who own companies, ethnic minorities or underestimated founders. Those are all, if you are a member of those groups and own 51% or more of your company, you're eligible for this certification. One sort of gap I would say in the process is that if it's 51% or more owned by two of these groups, for example, if it's 50% owned by a woman and 50% owned by a white male member of the LGBTQ community, that would not be eligible. So you're like, well, that should be great. That's 100%. But because of the way the certification works, one of those groups has to have at least 51%. So once you have that, then let's talk about why. So you're like, okay, well, why is that 51% important? Why is certification important to these companies? I've heard a lot of different things, like, do the companies get tax breaks? No. They're required to by the government. Private companies are not required by the government. Government agencies do have mandates for doing at least 5% of business with women business owners. And there's different ways that they reach those goals. But if you're talking about private companies, the ones that primarily participate with these organizations, they don't have to do it. They don't get tax breaks for doing it. The reason they do it is because of their bottom line. So this is a picture of corn. My husband came home. My husband does all our grocery shopping, and came home and he's like, so I know you told me to get the corn in the husks because it's a good activity for the kids to actually like husk the corn, right? Like they can feel like they're participating when our kids were a little younger. He's like, but I was at the store and I saw this women-owned logo and I thought you would like that even more. And I was like, well done. The women-owned logo, it's actually doing its thing. It's doing its job, reaching out to people to say, between this and this, which one would I rather have? And so that's just a small, anecdotal example of something that Walmart actually spent some time and money figuring out, which is that 90% of their customers would go out of their way to buy a product from a women-owned company. Now, Walmart knows their customer. This was in 2015 that the women-owned logo came out. And Walmart knows their customers really well. Most of their customers do tend to be women. And they were thinking, we're already doing the supplier diversity stuff. We're already buying from women-owned companies. We're doing these things, but do our customers even know that? And if they did know, would they care? So Walmart did some research and found out that a majority of their customers, back then it was 90%, would go out of their way to buy a product from a woman-owned company because they felt like it spoke to the quality of the product. So Walmart, again, not out of the goodness of their heart, not because the government made them, not because they're getting tax breaks, but because they saw a distinct benefit to their bottom line, said, we need a way to let our customers know that we're buying from women and that because of us, they have the opportunity to buy from women too. So Walmart, along with WeBay, the Women's Business Enterprise National Council, and We Connect International, which certifies women outside the US, came up with this logo for women-owned companies. It's very, very clear what it states: women-owned. And after that, just recently, this is a LinkedIn post from Jillian from Target, who said that Target just this year launched its LGBTQ owned badge. So again, to display the badge, you need to be 51% or more LGBTQ owned. And then you can opt into showing it on target.com. So if you are searching for companies on target.com, you can say, okay, I want to look for women owned, or I want to look for LGBTQ owned. So again, this is what Target is realizing, is that our customers need to know this. This is helpful to our bottom line. And the reason why I tell you this when you're thinking about getting certified or maximizing your certification, it's to know that the reasons why these companies are doing it, because then you will have a better opportunity of reaching out to your target market and telling them things that they want to hear. So there's a huge business case for doing business for diverse suppliers. One, it elevates their brand. There's a women-owned and LGBTQ-owned company called Hootology, which does research specifically on the brand impact of supplier diversity, and it can elevate the perception of a company's brand just by saying we buy from diverse companies. Also, purchasing power. I mentioned the new majority. So all those groups I mentioned, right? People with disabilities, women, LGBTQ, minorities, all these groups are growing, right? And so too is their purchasing power. So these companies do not want to be on the wrong end of supplier diversity when they're saying, who is our target base? Who is our customer base? And how are we providing goods and services for them? So that's both externally when we're thinking about consumer products, but also internally. Like if you remember my clients at the beginning who do like branding and marketing and analytics, if you are launching a new product to a new group, you want to have that market research with those diverse groups, so you know that you're going to capture their purchasing power.
And Liz, can we
Yep.
interrupt 2 seconds? We have a great question in the
Yeah.
chat about that, about
Oh, great.
B2C versus B2B.
Oh, great.
So are the certifications, equally as helpful for B2B companies, as well as like products like the corn that you mentioned that are consumer products?
Absolutely. I'm so glad you asked. It's harder to convey
And
visual.
sorry, and when the government is not the customer, where it's a private sector B2B.
Yep. I'm glad you asked, because I, up until about 7 years ago, I would have said if you were a consumer-based product, not to bother with the certification, that it's actually primarily for B2B. So this consumer-based, like since 2015, 2016, is really when the consumer products, when they said, hey, we have another opportunity here. So I would say there's equal opportunities for service and consumer, but you're going to have different target markets and different channels for that. So my clients at the beginning, both of them are in service-based industries. The majority of my clients are in service-based industries, because again, just for this, where it's like, not only do we want to show these things, but how do we market to these different groups? How do we, like staffing is a huge industry in that supplier diversity draws from. How do we hire people in these groups? How do we build up those communities? So it's both B2B and B2C. So it's a great question.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Samantha.
And yeah, and also going forward, like that brings up, so there's other benefits of having a diverse supply chain, a flexible supply chain. We saw this during COVID, right? That companies with more diverse and flexible supply chains were able to get what they need. There's still supply chain difficulties. So what they can get innovation, they can get flexible pricing, they can get great customer service, meaning that they can talk to the CEOs, right? You have CEOs on this call. If Walmart or Target or Accenture was interested in your service, presumably they'd be able to talk to the CEO of your company, right? And then finally, just what I was mentioning before is the community wealth building. The future consumers of these companies and the future employees of these companies are going to come from diverse groups. So their supply chain is a part of that. All of these things add up to a competitive advantage for these companies. And all these things are important when you're conveying your value proposition to your target market, when you're thinking about supplier diversity. I've seen a lot of people on their capability statements, which is a one-page document that if you had any conversations with supplier diversity, they probably asked you for it. And the capability statements, they say, I'm a small, women-owned, 8A, all these things like boop, 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 boop. And if you have a one-page document, what I'd say is, if you're already talking to supplier diversity, they know all you need is that certified logo. That's all you need. Because what they want to hear, once you've already gotten in that door, once you've already established you're taking advantage of the supplier diversity programs, is what is your competitive advantage? How can you add to these things that all these supplier diversity professionals are trying to get by doing supplier diversity? We can get into that a little more when we get into the questions. And this is a catalog. The other thing that you can get by being a part of these companies is you are part of the directory. So I mentioned you get certified, you go on a list. Each of these organizations has their own directory of diverse suppliers. When you go into that directory of diverse suppliers, that is what, if Marriott is looking for, local soaps that they want to put their gift shop, or Sodexo is looking for uniforms that they want to buy, they're going to go to these directories and look for you. Now, there's also a front-facing directory for consumer goods. So there's the women-owned directory, the LGBTQ-owned directory that comes out around Pride Month, where they make some of those businesses public. Basically, by being a part of this directory, you are also increasing your visibility, which is an important part of being a small business owner and getting in these big supply chains. So whatever you can do to increase your visibility is a benefit for you. Now, that's not to say, again, but it's not to say that, all right, since you're in that directory, that's all you have to do. Okay, so just reviewing, there's a business case for doing business with diverse suppliers. So that's why these corporations are doing this. And when you know the business case, you can use the tools available to you. So you can, it's helpful for you to think about, okay, I'm a small woman owned, great, that's fine. But what is my other value proposition that I can put forward to these companies that's going to help me move to the next level, move beyond supplier diversity? Because just being a part of these diverse groups is what got me in the door. That's not going to seal the deal for me. Okay, so this is me talking to a bunch of people at Hera Hub. It's a co-working group in DC. And I'm giving a talk about, knowing your target market, right? About how to close a deal. But before you close the deal, you have to know who you're talking to, who your audience is, and why that's important. So as we talk about that, how to identify your target market, there's a couple of different things you need to think about when we're talking about certification. So if you're thinking about who do I want to get certified? Do I want to be a part of these? I mentioned supplier diversity a couple times. Do I want to be a part of these supplier diversity networks? What can I gain from that? You want to think about one, who your clients currently are, right? What are your industries? Are you selling to the hospitality industry? Are you selling to the real estate industry? Are you selling to, consulting, the big four, your McKinseys, your EYs? Who is your target market? And then you have to look at, do these companies have supplier diversity programs that are real programs that are going to work for you? The supplier diversity programs, the whole idea behind them is that they want to reach out to diverse suppliers and get them in their supply chains. The role of supplier diversity is to identify those companies, and when there's an opportunity, make sure that they're included in the RFPs. Now, a lot of people hear that and think, okay, so I am going to meet supplier diversity, that I'm going to tell them what I do, and then they're going to introduce me to my end user, my end buyer, right? And that certainly can happen, but more often what happens is supplier diversity is building up a list. They are building up their own database. So I mentioned, once you get certified, you're part of the WeBank Link directory or the NGLCC directory. Oftentimes these companies have their own directories because they want their buyers to go to these directories, right? Like they want their buyers to have access to it. So you're like, I just got certified. Now I have to go to these other portals and get into those portals of the companies that I want to do business with, because they can't keep in their head at the conference I mentioned at the beginning, just the WeBank conference, which is just one conference. All the supplier diversity people, they're going to meet 1,000 people easily, right? Like they're going to meet thousands of people, and they can't keep it in their head. So they do have a system. They're like, go to my supplier diversity portal, register there. And when an opportunity comes around, we'll keep you in mind, right? And what I say, and so a lot of people are like, this is where they get stuck, right? They're like, I registered in the portal and I never heard again. The portals are a necessary evil. You do have to do it. But to truly take advantage of the supplier diversity programs, you want to build relationships with supplier diversity such that not only are you in that portal, but that they remember you when opportunities become available. And the way you do that is to know who your target market is, and then narrow it down. What I've seen a lot of people do, sometimes my clients will come to me and say, I got certified, I registered in 50 supplier diversity portals for these companies, and I never heard anything back. And I'm frankly not surprised, because it's hard for a small business, unless you have a big sales team or something like that, to manage 50 prospects, right? To build relationships with 50 supplier diversity representatives, much less 50 companies, right? And everything that entails. So what you really want to do is narrow it down. I'm going to skip that for a second. narrow it down to the companies that you really feel like you have past performance in, companies that you're already doing business with, but that could win more business, you can win more business from, and companies where you have a specific offering for their industries. So this is just a very small sampling of the companies you can find with that you can address with these certifications, right? So someone mentioned like not government, but private sector. These are just a sampling of the private sector companies that accept these certifications. Even going after 5 of these is going to take time. It's going to take anywhere, I say, from 6 to 18 months, possibly longer, up to 3 years. It's also going to take 12 to 30 touch points with these companies to really get to the next step. So, so you need to have the time, energy, and resources for that. And all these companies, even though this is just a sampling, is too many. So you might say, okay, the first thing I have to do is see, 1, do my current clients or any of my potential clients accept these certifications? And 2, is there anyone that I want to do business with that accepts them? Where do I find that information? The websites. So if your first step is to get certified, your second step is to go to the organization that certified you, go to their website, and it's typically their name. So NGLCC is nglcc.org, WeBank is webank.org, right? You go to those organizations, look at their corporate partners, and WeBank it's corporate members, look at those and say, okay, are there 5 to 7 companies here that I could reasonably do business with, that I have a special, unique offering for. And once you've narrowed it down, then you can start the process of reaching out and doing that business development for them. Because if you try and go too broad, either with your messaging or with your target market, you're just not going to be able to do it. You're going to get bored and frustrated. And you're going to be someone who comes to me in like 3 years and is like, I didn't get anything out of it. So I'll give you an example of, I'm moving backwards, give you an example of a company that did that, and that's Inco International. Ingrid Christensen just wrote a book. She runs a translating company. This is her Instagram, which I just think is really clever. Every day she puts up a word in a different language and defines it. So I think it's a clever way to showcase her brand. And not only that, when she came to me, she was like, I got certified for a big company. They asked me to get certified, and pretty much I haven't gotten anything out of it since then. And so we talked about different strategies. And I was like, well, what about that big company? Did you go back and tell them that you're certified? And she's like, well, yeah, I mean, the people that I deal with on the event side didn't really care about the certification. I said, oh, but did you talk to supplier diversity, right? Like the person whose job it is to make sure you're in the process. And she said, no, I didn't, I actually don't know that person. And I was like, well, reach out to them because they do care. We know that they have a supplier diversity program. We know that they care. So she reached out to them. It turned out it was right before they were doing their like quarterly showcase of this is what supplier diversity has done for the past couple months. She managed to get into that showcase. They were like, great, would love to showcase the work, the translation work we've done with you thus far. And because of that, she ended up getting more business with that company than she initially had. So that's not an example of like, she hit the ground, like she hit the pavement, she followed up with 15 different people and saw them at different places. It's like, no, work with the companies where you have some past performance, some relationship, start with that low hanging fruit first, and then we can talk about being proactive with other companies. So I'm going to stop there and see if there's any questions before I go to the government side. Any questions on that? Okay, great. And then the other thing people ask me about is like, how does this relate to government contracting? And I would say it's 2 separate animals. So if you want to do business with the private sector, the certifications I've been talking about, these are the ones for you. If you want to do business in the government sector, there are still certifications. There's 8A, women-owned small business, economically disadvantaged women-owned small business. These are other certifications that are available to you. If you want to do business with federal government agencies or their prime contractors. So the one that actually translates across both is women-owned small business. When you get certified through WeBank, you can also get the women-owned small business certification through the same process. So Jane was mentioning like getting certified through the SBA is a real bear. I recommend going through WeBank, getting that WOSB, and then you can just sort of upload what you have with SBA. SBA accepts that certification. And I would also say that these are two different strategies. I'm much more familiar with the private sector and how you approach those. Government contracting is a completely different animal, which is not to say that you shouldn't pursue it. I certainly know plenty of people who do business with both, but just recognizing that if you get the WeBank certification because you want to do business with like the EPA, that's probably not your best target. And again, you want to go back to your target market and say, what certifications do they want? Which ones do they accept? The same is true for some like universities, for example. Some universities, they might accept the WeBank certification, but if it's a public university, they're much more likely to accept the certification from your state or your county. So you really have to know your target market to be able to make the most of these programs. And so this is just a wrap up. I told Lisa I would send these slides too, so you can see. But these, you don't have to like memorize everything I just said, but this is just a quick and easy chart for how do I know which certifications are good for what. And what are the eligibility requirements for each. So you'll see the eligibility requirements for government and corporate are pretty much the same. The thing that differs the most is which clients accept what. This is the SBA tool for determining if you're even eligible for small business government contracting. I can put I believe the link to this is in the PowerPoint, so I'll make sure it translates to the PDF. So if you want to see, can I even do SBA and which ones do I qualify for, I will include that. So you've got to know which of your target clients have supplier diversity programs. Go to the websites and see if there are clients or potential clients for you where the certification would be valid or where you can work the certification. And then if you're interested in SBA, go to that website for SBA. Okay. And then the next question is like how to do it or when to get help. So I generally talk about this in terms of the actual certification process. I always say that paperwork is the entrepreneur's kryptonite, right? Like this is where everything slows down. You are going, like, you look at all the list of documents and you're like, I don't have time for this. I'm not going to do it. And that's fine. I completely understand that. I am in the process of renewing my certification right now. I have two things that are holding me up. And it is one of those things like it keeps, I start really early because it renews in October. I've already started it because I know it's a thing that's going to keep getting swept to the end of my list. So one, it's a completely normal thing to have happen. But if you want to get it done, you have to apply online, pay the fee, and get a site visit. Once you apply online and pay the fee and your application's complete, you will get a site visit within 90 days and you should get your certification within 90 days. Now that might vary depending on which certification you're getting and what region you're in, but that's about what you can plan for. So even if it's taking you a long time to get that paperwork together or to respond to the questions they have about your paperwork, that's just going to elongate the process. So in order to have everything in a row, like if you are this person and your books are super organized and you're ready to go and you're going to get this done, I say for like a solopreneur, if you're 100% owner, you have all your documents in a row, you could probably do it on your own, right? Like there's nothing tricky about your ownership. You can probably get it done on your own. Or you have someone like this on your staff. It doesn't have to be you. If someone like this is on your staff, you can get it done. I recommend if you're in the process and you want to submit your application, make a reminder for 2 weeks for today. And if you've made no progress, then it's probably time to get in touch with me. I have a business partner that can help, that does the certification process for you, should do the paperwork. And not only that, because she's got all that information, she'll also streamline filling out the supplier diversity portals for you. So that's just some help you can get. I say, give yourself 2 weeks, right? Focus on it, put it on your priority list, let it rise to the top. And if after 2 weeks you still haven't gotten to it, that's probably a sign you need help. And I would say the same thing for maximizing your certification, right? You're going to go to the websites, you're going to set a target list. You're going to log into the directory, fill out the supplier diversity portals for those targets. If in 2 weeks, I'm not saying you have to be done in 2 weeks, but if you haven't done anything in 2 weeks, it's probably a sign that you need help getting this done, having the accountability, making sure you know where to go to get the supplier portals. Are these companies even good? Like, can I even rely on these companies? If you find yourself kind of overthinking it and not knowing which direction to go in, and that's holding you back, after 2 weeks, you haven't made any progress, probably time to get help. Okay, so this is what we did. Oh, wait, let me go back. So you know the business case. You know your target clients, or at least how to find your target clients. And you know about what you need to do. In doing that, if you need help, you can get in touch with me. And here's my contact information. I'll leave that up. And we still have about 20 minutes if people want to ask questions.
Thank you so much, Liz. This is so informative. And for me, I've knew like little bits and pieces of this, but it's so great to get this huge overview of how each works with different sort of private sector, public sector, and really understand the interplay of all of them. And it was funny, this last comment you made, it kind of resembles how people think about lawyers sometimes. It's like, can you do it on your own? What's the benefit of hiring somebody? Maybe you have to pay, but probably better off in the long run for you to do that. Anyway, everybody, please feel free, unmute yourself, chime in, questions, experiences. Jane, it sounded like you've had experience in this as well. So feel free to ask a question or even supplement what Liz has been saying.
I have a quick question. Thank you, Liz. This was very helpful, especially when it comes to business development, how you framed it in finding potential partners and customers. That was very helpful. Can you please share your slides?
Yes, I will send my slides to Lisa and she'll send them out. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we will be circulating both the recording and the slides, so you can go back and look through and really dig in deeper.
Liz, tell me about the WOSB certification when I already have the WeBank certification.
Okay, so if you already have the WeBank certification, you'll probably have to wait until renewal. So for all these certificates, you may be able to add stuff in. I would get in touch with in Denver, is your regional affiliate WeBank West?
Yes.
Yep. You can get in touch with WeBank West, with Jamie there, and just see if you can do it before renewal. But I think renewal is probably the easiest. And what you do is when you're filling out that renewal application, it says, do you want to do WeBank and do you want to do WOSB? Now, the WOSB requirements, basically the process is the same. The only thing you have to add is you have to be working in your business at least 30 hours a week. So you have to agree to that. And then you have to submit like a quarterly estimated like payroll payment on your employees. I don't have employees, so I just write a waiver like I don't have employees and upload that. And that's pretty much the process for getting WOSB. In
That's awesome.
order to have SBA, recognize that, then you do have to go to SBA. You have to be an entity in SAM.gov and upload that WeBank certificate to that to be considered for the WOSB set asides. So, and just so everybody knows, WOSB is women-owned small business. The set asides refer to the mandates I mentioned earlier. The federal government has mandates for their agencies to do at least 5% of business with women-owned small businesses, and they set aside certain contracts for those businesses. So to be eligible for that, you do have to like upload your certificate to SBA and let them know you really got certified. But I think WeBank makes that process a lot easier.
Great.
Any other questions or comments for Liz, or experiences that you might be willing to share with the group? Liz, what are some of like the mistakes you've seen? Like if you had to say, if you do, if you make sure you do one thing or two things, what do you do and what do you don't do?
Sure. So I'll give you two. One is in the application process. I would say one big mistake is not reading the documentation before you submit it. And as a lawyer, I'm sure that you've probably seen this, like, did you read this contract?
Mhm.
Right. So one of the things I see, especially if it's not 100% ownership, is that if you have a partnership with like if you're 51% owned by a woman and then 49% owned by a male, if you're an LLC, oftentimes like the boilerplate operating agreement says there's certain things you can only do with unanimous consent. And with what WeBank wants to see is that women have unilateral control over the business. Well, if there's a unanimous consent clause and there's significant things that you can't do without unanimous consent, like write a check over $5,000 or hire and fire, then that's going to be an automatic denial.
And those are pretty typical.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's very boilerplate. If you have a partnership, now if it's two women, it's 50-50, two women, that's fine. But I would say look those things over, or have a lawyer look it over and make sure that that reflects. And some people are like, oh, we did that 10 years ago. That doesn't even reflect how our company runs. Well, then you want to make sure those documents are in order and reflecting how your company runs. Again, it's part of that entrepreneurial, that entrepreneur's kryptonite where you're like, just get it done. Just upload those documents, just get it done, just check it off the list. Just at least give it one read through before you upload it, because it's just going to take a lot of time.
Yeah.
And then the biggest mistake I would say for maximizing the certification is, you'd be surprised, but people go up to these companies and they're like, oh, what does Sodexo do? Oh, what does, for those companies that might not have the biggest brand recognition. And it's really just a big no-no. It's very easy to do a little bit of market research before you approach the companies, like at a conference or at an event or on a webinar. Really do your best to at least learn what they do. And if you can, how you can offer value to something that's important to them. It's really great. There's we talk about an example when we do our diversity masterminds course of GM. So GM has a 0-0-0 strategy and vision. They want zero congestion, zero collisions, and zero emissions, right? So 0-0-0. And Reggie, who is the supplier diversity person from GM, mentioned that someone came up to him and was like, I know about GM's 0-0-0 strategy and vision, and this is how my company fits into that. Very simple, but he remembered them, and he made an effort to listen to what they were saying and then get them in the right spot, because he was like, this person did their research. They weren't just like, we work with automotive companies to blah, 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 right? Like insert industry here. We work with healthcare companies. He's like, this person really understood where we were coming from and could talk to us about achieving our goals, as opposed to trying to sell me what they do.
Okay. And this might be a one of those, no question is a dumb question, but what if you qualify for more than one category?
Oh, great
Do
question.
you do it both? Do you have to choose? Like, how does that work?
That's a great question. So, in some cases, like if you have to decide, like the short answer is, yeah, you should get them all because you have more chance for exposure. For example, Jessica, who I mentioned at the beginning, she's WeBank certified, but she's also certified by Disability In. So she is at the Disability In conference right now. That's actually a really good way. Like if you meet people at the WeBank conference, saying, I'm going to see you again in July. Here's my
okay.
information. Like that's a really great way to do it. And Jessica has 10 matchmakers, so one-on-one meetings scheduled at that conference. And I think a lot of it has to do with laying the groundwork by being women-owned certified as well.
That's great. It's okay. So you can, if you qualify, you can do as many as you qualify for.
Yeah, and NGLCC and Disability In will accept WeBank certification. I'm not sure, maybe NMSDC too, but they will accept WeBank certification and you just give them some additional documentation related to that. So
Got it. That's great. Okay.
yeah.
Any additional questions for Liz? We've got a few minutes left here. It was a really great and clear presentation. So I understand not too many questions, but
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. It was a great group. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. We really appreciate you taking the time today. And Jane, Samantha, Victoria, thank you for joining. As I mentioned, we will circulate both the recording and the deck. And of course, feel free to sign up for a future next webinar. Stay in touch with us. We always have some great events going on. And we look forward to seeing you all again the next time. And Liz, thank you so much again for taking your time and sharing your wisdom and expertise with us. It's really a super critical and interesting topic that doesn't get talked about much. So thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Bye, everyone. Have a good rest of your day.
Bye.